Let me go back to something that Tori asked you at the beginning in terms of the trade-off between good tax policy and good politics. I think most economists agree that a sales tax, consumption tax is the best, most economically efficient tax base. But if you're going to convince the American public to accept a sales tax or consumption tax, I don't think they're going to willingly go there. And part of the problem is related to the tax gap and the widespread public perception that there are all of these rich people who are not paying their fair share. If you look at the polling data, you ask a general open-ended question, do you think rich people should pay more taxes? Overwhelmingly, the answer is, oh yeah, they should pay more. But if you ask a slightly different question, you say, well, how much do you think they should pay? What is a reasonable tax rate that people should pay? There was an old Reader's Digest poll from some years ago, and the median response was 25%. So, and it turns out, obviously there are rich people who don't pay any taxes, but on average, the top 1%, we know from IRS data, they pay roughly 25%. So, on average. And so the question is, how do you sell the American public on the notion that, yeah, we're all going to have to bite the bullet and pay more taxes when there is this widespread perception that until the rich pay their fair share, I'm not going to pay any more than I am already. There's this, disconnect between the reality of the tax numbers and the public perception that there's too many people who are not paying their fair share.
Yeah, years and years ago, Russell Long, who was the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, famously said, don't tax me, don't tax the fellow behind the tree. And I think that really is people's attitude is, I don't like deficits. You guys know that better than anybody. Public ask public about the deficits. They don't like deficits. And we need to do something about it, but not me. Somebody else has to do something about it. And we somehow need to get over that. And the way you get over it seems to me, is a serious conversation by politicians about what the problem is and how to fix it. You're exactly right, Steve. The tax code, despite what the left says, the tax code is actually quite progressive, except at the very, very, very top, where you have people who are paying very low capital gains rates and very little ordinary income rates. But for the most part, through the income distribution, it's quite progressive. And low and moderate income people don't pay taxes at all in many cases. They're getting refundable tax credits. So people are in pretty good shape, really. But we don't understand that. It goes back to what I was saying before. The tax code is so complicated and so opaque. It's hard to imagine that people really would understand what was going on, because who does? I think the microcosm of this is actually Social Security, not the income tax, but actually Social Security. So we just saw, another Social Security actuaries report that once again tells us that in about 10 years, the Social Security old age system is going to be out of money. It's going to be insolvent, and it will have to pay about 22% less than has been projected, than effectively it has promised people. If we do nothing, that's the default. If we do nothing, benefits will fall by 22% in about 10 years. Now that's impossible. That's really not going to happen. But what's going to happen between now and then? And that, Steve, goes to kind of your question about the politics. So when Democrats say the solution to this is to raise payroll taxes in some way, Republicans all say, absolutely impossible. You're going to raise taxes on low and moderate income people. It's terrible. You can't do it. When Republicans say, no, the solution to this is to reduce benefits or reduce promised benefits somewhat, the Democrats all say, can't do that. What are you doing? You're ripping off everybody, and people have been promised this money and you can't do. It's actually fairly easy to fix Social Security. We know how to do it. There's a menu that everybody's seen that tells you how much you can get if you do this and if you do that. It's simply a matter of doing the arithmetic. It's pretty clear to me that in the end, we're going to do a combination of reducing benefits somewhat, or reducing promised benefits somewhat, and raising taxes somewhat. And you do that, you can fix the problem, just like the Greenspan Commission did 30 years ago. we know how to do it. We just don't want to. And politicians don't want to have a serious conversation about this. And this is going to happen in 10 years. You know, it won't happen to the next president, to the person who's elected in 2024, but the one who's elected in 2028 is going to have this puppy sitting in their lap. It's that close. And we don't want to have a serious conversation about it. So, you know, we're gonna get down to the wire. We're gonna do what Congress always does in a crisis, and we're gonna have an unnecessary crisis, you know, that could have been entirely avoided.